Ah, it's so aggravating. Tick, 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 tick. Welcome back to Triple R Performance Garage. We're gonna get rid of that. All right, so here we have a project that you've seen several times on my channel if you've been following me. This is the LSZ. I call it the LSZ. I don't have a real good name for it yet because it's not really my car and I don't want to name somebody else's car. But this is actually a track test car that we're using for the Ronin. It's the carbon fiber 240Z that you might have seen at SEMA last year. We are testing a lot of the products for the suspension, the brakes, chassis. A lot of that stuff is testing on this car so we can see how it handles and how it does. This motor is not the Indy motor that you see in the Ronin. This is actually a LS1 that has a few good upgrades to it. Texas speed cam, springs, it's got a turbo, studs, ARP fasteners, yada, yada, yada. The problem is LSs are notorious for what's called sewing machine lifters. The lifters are annoying. They're super freaking annoying. They just tick, 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 tap, 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 tap. And I love the LSs. They're great motors, but those damn lifters are annoying. And I just can't stand them. So instead of somebody knocking on your door all the time, knocking on your head, driving you completely nuts when you're driving it, there are solutions, and that's what we're gonna do in this video. So in this video, I'm actually going to tear apart this motor, and we're gonna throw in a set of new Cometic head gaskets. Right now it has LS9 head gaskets. Very common upgrade, a lot of people do that. But the bore on an LS9 is way, way larger than an LS1. So I went ahead and went with these Cometics. These are actually a 4.035 bore, which is much closer to the LS1 bore, which is much smaller than the LS9. So it actually is much better for the space. This is also a 0.045, so it should do a really good job. While I'm in there, I of course need to have a timing cover set to take the timing cover off, change the oil pump, do everything there, because I actually like to change the oil pumps when I take these motors apart. If you're not a typical LS guy and you're an old school Chevy dude or Ford guy or whatever, oil pumps are much different. This is a Melling 10295 part number. This is a high pressure oil pump. I like to do high pressure, high volume in a lot of motors, but this one I'm going with high pressure due to the turbo. This has a Precision 36 something turbo. I can't remember the exact size. I'll post it. But the oil pump 10295 specifically, but they're all the same. They all slide over the hub of the actual crank. So you take the harmonic balancer off, take the timing cover off, take all that stuff off, and you can get to this. And when you get to this, it actually has 4 bolts, 10mm heads, easy, 22 foot-pounds, pretty typical on an LS. But before you do that, you have to take off the 8mm that holds on the pickup tube that goes into the pan. It slides into here, and it has a specific O-ring. A lot of these motors have either a flared pickup tube or a straight pickup tube or whatever, but they're all very specific O-rings for what the pickup tube pattern is, right? Whether it's flared or not. Make sure you read on that. I can show you when I get there what it looks like, and then we'll make our decision on the O-ring that we have to put in it. This thing spins on the crank, has a gear, you take the cover off, see how that looks. And a lot of people say you cannot actually oil these and prep or kind of prime them, but you're wrong. You can prime these motors. A lot of people disconnect the ignition and the spark, and they turn it over and just until they have a little bit of pressure, but they're not going to see pressure on the gauge. It doesn't spin fast enough. So they just assume they have oil everywhere, and then they start their motors. That's not the right way to do it. You can actually fill the side of the block. There's a plug, feeds oil into it, which fills this chamber, and then you actually have a primed motor after you turn it over. That is the right way to do it. So that's the oil pump. You can also change pressures with a spring here. Take out this plug, the spring goes inside of here, and you can change the pressures. So those springs, they actually come with most oil pumps, and they actually size them out based on what you want to use. Here is the blue spring, here's the black spring. So we're gonna leave the spring that's in it. Now, How am I gonna get rid of the lifter tick? That annoying tack, tack, tick, tack, tack, too. How do you get rid of that? Well, here's a good option, and it also is more valve control. This is a Johnson, they call it a short travel. They have 0.058, they're axle oiling, they're a tie bar set. These suckers have a preload of 30 thousandths plus or minus 5. What that means is set it around 25 or 35, whatever, but I like to stick within the 30 range, and I'll actually show you how to measure that when we get to that point. But these lifters are way nicer. I will show you when I get one of the stock ones out, but these don't need the plastic trays that go in an LS motor. Get that plastic out of your motor and go to these. They're a link bar setup. These are the more expensive race style. Part number, let's see here. These are the 2126 LSRs. So these are actually a really, really, really good lifter. I like to use them in all my race motors, so why not put it in this? But what you need to keep in mind is if you look at these really close, I don't know if you can see it, try to zoom in the best I can, they actually have crap on them. It's from machining, it's from packing, it's from handling, but I literally just opened this box and there is residue on this. So don't be that guy that goes, oh, these are sweet, pluck, throw them in there with junk. First of all, that's not the right way to do any lifter. What you want to do is clean them in a solvent, get them very, very, very clean. Dry them off, put them in a gallon, a quart, whatever, put them in oil. Let them soak in oil, get the bubbles out, get the air pockets out, get that stuff oiled up. Then you put it in the motor after everything's clean and ready to go. So I'm gonna clean these up. I'm gonna get them all ready to go in this motor. But in the meantime, tonight is teardown. I'm gonna begin by showing you the motor and what I'm gonna tear down. All right, so for those beginners that are not LS guys, the wastegate actually connects to the intake here. So you have the blow-off valve, right? So not the wastegate, excuse me. All right, so for all those new guys that are not used to turbos, here is a blow-off valve. You have blow-off valves, wastegates. I'll explain it all one by one. But the blow-off valve is actually on the intake tube. It releases the pressure from the intake because you don't want to let off the gas and have the boost keep going down the motor, right? That doesn't make any sense. So when you release it, vacuum from the motor, which is what this tube is, opens up this valve when it, when it lets go of the pedal. So it's hard to explain unless you actually see kind of how it works, but it comes off vacuum, okay? So you take the vacuum tube off the intake. Let's take that off, we'll leave it on the intake. And we'll start taking this off. This is the intake air temperature sensor. You want to read the temperatures of the intake air going in for the fuel mapping. I can explain that in a tune in a future video. If I'm ever breathing heavy, I work out a lot when I'm between sessions, so that is the reason. All right, so then we're going to take off the intake boot. Okay, move on to this. These things always fight you, because they're positioned just right. And I gotta get it off intercooler tube. So I'm happy we're getting rid of this purple. Gosh, the Fast and Furious colors. I feel like I'm a Honda Civic. There we go. So that is the intake cold side. So after it goes through the intercooler, which is in the front, goes into this tube, yada, yada, yada. So we'll get that ready to go to powder coating. The radiator, I'm gonna have to drain that. But before I do, I think we would take the downpipe off with the O2 sensor. So let me grab a 13 mil. Now, when this was welded up, it actually is in sections, so it's a lot easier to remove everything. We'll unplug the wideband sensor. Remove it from the turbo. There we go. Now I just got to get these heads off. So if I could leave this exhaust here, I'd love to. but I have to be able to access the head bolts. So what I'm going to do is set this aside, see what I need to do next. Now, the turbo assembly in the front here, the only way to pull it out is I have to remove the oil line on the top and the bottom, and it's very, very tight fit. So I'm going to bring you in and try to show you much closer. All right, so we have the pipes disconnected from the manifolds. They just need to be popped loose. Maybe actually pretty close to loose, but the problem is being held on by the intake pipe here. So I'm gonna get an 8mm and get down here and loosen that. Let's see here. Wow, that pipe was a little bit loose. Now, I don't know if this is going to come off in one piece or not. We're going to have to find out. I doubt it will, because there's a coolant tube underneath here that's kind of like going through it a little bit. So it may be, you know, beneficial for us to take the belt off, take the water pump off, drain the radiator, kind of clear a lot of room to get this out of the way. We got to take that off anyway, so I'm going to get a tank and catch some of that fluid. All right, let's get under here. That should be close. So let's see here. One negative is this car is so dang low, and I'm not on the lift. So I'm going to have to finagle my way down here. But you know, it's just an 8mm. So what I'll do is I'll loosen the top side first. While I'm here, and then I'll get underneath once I jack it up a little. We'll get under here. There's the frame. All right. Care about your life. Get yourself a jack stand. There we go. All right, now we have it jacked up and on a jack stand. I can get underneath it a little bit to drain the fluid. I'm gonna grab my old man's wheel dolly and get under there. Let's see here. Now I have access, I can see it. Start draining this fluid. All right, so we have the fluid draining as we speak. It's actually going into a container. I've had to do it twice just to empty the whole system. Take this off to bleed it, just make sure it comes out. We can now take off the top radiator hose and start beginning on the water pump and so forth. So I'll show you what you got to do there. All right, so now that we have that drained out, I went ahead and released the clamp on the steam pipe that goes right here. Not a big deal. We're gonna go ahead and take off the top radiator hose, which has that steam pipe that I just mentioned. So we gotta take the top hose here. That clamp's gonna be replaced, I can tell already, because the bolt came right out. Pretty normal. Okay, get that out of the way. Now I gotta find where that other one is. Okay, that's good. Now, take that off like this. That off the steam pipe. Come on. There we go. That's off. Now, we want to take the belt off. Pretty simple. Use a 15mm wrench. Go like this, slide it off the water pump. That's it, nothing crazy. That's how the serpentine belt comes off. Then the water pump is usually 10mm bolts, but on this one, for some reason, it has 13s in it. Doesn't really matter. We're gonna go ahead and loosen all those and get that off. There are 6 of them. And then I can show you how the water pump looks on an LS, if you don't know. Fries are done. Fries are done. I'll let Lucky say that, it's his thing. All right, and then the last one is behind a pulley, so I'm going to use a 13mm wrench. 1 second. So this one's right here. It's just going to take us a couple turns to get it loose enough. Get these bolts out of the way. Water pump's now releasing some pressure in the block because the block has a lot of pressure with a lot of water. So let me grab another pan. So the reason the block is releasing water after you loosen the water pump, even though I ran the radiator, is the block is held, it has a thermostat. If you don't know what thermostat is, look it up. But the thermostat at a certain temperature opens up and allows coolant to go into the motor. And so the motor is completely full from that thermostat, allowing it into the motor, and then it closes when it's cold. So you're going to drain this the best we can, but this is the last bolt. All right. Finished taking this bolt out. I could have taken the pulley off, but I didn't want to. I'm going to leave that pulley on if I can. Kind of shocked that this doesn't have the 10mm heads. They usually always have that. I put this motor together though, so that's on me. Now, if you don't know who Lucky Cost is, he says fries are done, because that sounds like a bell. It's always a pain in the butt to loosen a bolt this way. I like my power tools. Probably could have taken that pulley off and that off before I was finished with this. But whatever. Now, release the pressure from the pump. And it should come right out. Cool. Okay. Now I'm hoping that I can take this out smooth. See, it would have been easier to take that pulley off in the first place. But, you know, whatever. Maybe I'll take the intake off, get it out of the way. Got to come off anyway. So we'll get to the intake. It clears more room, makes it easier for the entire job. So I'm going to take these off. These are actually the catch can tubes. When they're out of the way, you have a lot more clearance and space to work around. So these are TIG welded into the valve covers to have breathers. This is not normal on a stock valve cover. You can make it yourself. You don't have to go pay somebody a stupid amount of money. It's not that big of a deal. So if you want to get yourself some lessons on TIG welding, you can get yourself a catch can system, breather system, just like this. Okay, now we'll get all this off the manifold. Clearly, drop the bolt down here. Good job, there we go. Let's get that out of the way. Get this all off of here. Start unplugging the injectors, loosening the throttle cable. Go from there. So the injectors, again, they're FICs with EVs for plugs. EV is a style of injector plug. Okay, slide them out of the way. We'll unplug these. Okay, those are the injectors. Then you have the throttle body. And you have the coolant temperature sensor. It goes on the front here of the head. Then you have a ground. So I'm just going to slide this out of the way for now. And then all that's left is removing this 10mm and this throttle bracket, and then we can start taking off the intake. All right, so here's the throttle bracket that you could buy aftermarket. It goes on the front of an LS1 intake manifold, so keep that in mind. I think Motion Raceworks and some others, Lockar, they make those. So now I have to loosen up the fuel lines and take the 8, let's see, what are there? 10 of these, they're Allen heads on these ones. I hope I can find one with a socket. I don't want to have to do, and there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and take off the inlet and return to the field. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Now I should be using an AN wrench, but these are already not perfect, so whatever. Spill a little fuel, is what it is. Fuel will evaporate. I'll deal with the smell. It is what it is. Okay, that's done. All right, so we got that loose, and like I said, old school Chevy guys, this is a dry intake manifold. You'll see in a second. Just realized I have a couple vacuum lines back here for brake boost and map sensor and whatever, all the vacuum lines back here. So let's get those off real quick. It's kind of tight. There we go. Get them out of the way. Cool. Let's get that manifold off of there. Let's tilt it forward. Don't want to get that any more fuel. I'm tired of the smell of that fuel. It's driving me nuts. And there we go. Now that we have the dry intake off, let's go ahead and take the water pump out of the way. Out of the way. All right. Fighting me. Of course it is. And again. 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 And there goes the bolts. All right. Well, whatever. All right. So now that we have that water pump out of the way, we can now begin on the turbo again. We have a lot of space now, which is nice. But as you see, I still have a lot of support on this, which is stopping me from moving it. So I'm going to release the bolt completely from the clamp. It's a V-band clamp down here. Let's just release the pressure completely. That'll give it a lot of space here. That is way, way more loose. Now, we also have the oil drain tube, which I'd begun loosening a little bit ago, just to make sure I had the right size. And so we're going to finish taking that off. Okay. It's very hard when turbo setups are usually always tight. Like you're always fighting room in these engine compartments. But that just is the way it is if you want to play with the turbo. Okay, I'm almost there. Should be off. I mean, yes, it's off. So then what's next is there's a couple vacuum lines on the wastegates. You push almost like refrigerant lines. Just take them off. Okay, now the other side is holding me up because it's very tight on that side. So I'm going to release this clamp just like it did on that side. Hot dog, that's a lot of pressure. So these V-band clamps get very, very tight. Look at that. It like released the whole system just by doing that. So I got to be careful of the dump tubes here. I don't want to damage anything. So this one is in the way. Come on. Like I said, it's the intake tube that's holding me. Now, there we go. I think I got it. Okay. Let's loosen this now. Now the wastegate here has a tube still. It's very tight. There, wastegate is loose. I'll inspect these tubes when I put them back on. And there's also a compressor tube on the turbo compressor side. Now I can take it off. It's heavy, but it's off. With that turbo setup off, you can see, holy crap, I have more room than I know what to do with. So that's awesome. It's a benefit. I actually can access the front of the motor pretty good. I can access the heads. So what I need to do next is I need to start taking the manifolds off. And in order to do that, I don't want to break any spark plugs. So we'll release the spark plug wires. Okay. Get those out of the way. And then let's see here. We have a coolant temperature sensor on the side here that's really close to something else, and can't really describe, but just take my word. I got to try to loosen that off. So as I'm loosening this, I have fiberglass in my arms from DEI header tape. I hate the feeling of fiberglass, and I hate when it's in my arms and it's itchy. But unfortunately, DEI header tape is necessary on a lot of turbo setups because the amount of heat that it creates protects everything else from cooking. So unfortunately, it sucks how much it itches, but it's an evil, necessary evil, I guess is the best way to put it. So what I did is I took off the coolant temperature wire. I'm hoping that I don't break off the little stud on this header. But now I got to start taking off the exhaust bolts, which I can't tell what they are. I think they're 10s maybe? Yes, they are 10s. So all right, here's one manifold. Okay, now we're on this side. Take these spark plug wires out. Okay. Alternator wires down here. If I can get it, that'd be great. If not, whatever. It's really hard to get to, so we'll try to move on. Okay. All right. So the next thing to do is take the steam pipes off, because you can't really do much with it. These are knock sensors, by the way. Got a little bit of fluid. So on an LS, the knock sensors go in here on an early Gen 3 LS, and then later they put them on the side of the block. So now what we need to do is we need to start taking the valve covers off, because they're going to go get powder coated as well, and we'll get that ready to go. So I'll do that first, and then I'll show you the rockers. Okay, so in order to take the heads off of these motors, you have to get the valve covers off. So what you do, kind of like the Vortec heads, they're in the center here. They have little grommets to seal. Take them off real quick here. Of course. Let me get another tool. This will be quicker anyway. All right, so with the valve covers off, you can see they have an O-ring underneath, so these could be reused, but it's probably going to be taken off because I have to do the powder coating. So I'm going to set these aside for the powder coater, and then I'll show you what the rocker assemblies look like. Okay, so here are the rocker assemblies on an LS. These are actually the stock rockers. They have some upgraded trunnion bearings, which is nice because the bearings inside these actually fail. And so inside here, there's an upgraded trunnion kit. And these are really nice because they make it safer for you, and it prevents you from having any issues. These needle bearings will come apart, drop inside, you have a nightmare. Here underneath is a little pedestal for the rocker pedestal. They rock back and forth on top of this pedestal, and it's one single unit. So I'm going to show you a trick. Instead of doing one at a time, let me show you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and loosen these. All right, so let me go ahead and show you. Instead of taking these off one at a time, you can actually grab the rocker pedestal and boom, got the whole thing. And now we have these push rods. These are actually 7.4s. They're Tick Performance 7.4 push rods. They're 80 thousandths. So go ahead and just slide them out. We'll put them inside of a nice clean box, save them for another cam. All right, so we're very, very close to done with teardown. Now we're just gonna start taking the heads off. So what we're gonna do is start loosening these. These are ARPs, like I said, ARP head bolts. They essentially are reusable. So that's nice. Saves a little money. So I'm gonna go ahead and start taking these off, and we'll go from there. As I figured, they're gonna be way too tight for this, so I'm gonna get a breaker bar, start breaking them off. All right, so I'm gonna take the coolant temperature sensor out. Prefer not to break it. Just saves me a headache in the future. All right, I'm gonna go grab a magnet, start taking these out. Okay, start collecting all these. Make sure that I get the ones that fell on the floor. Not only do they have the nuts, they also have washers underneath them. Sometimes they're a pain in the butt to get out. The magnet is always my best friend. when it comes to them. Now some of them are not going to come out until you start lifting it because they're just finicky little turds. Okay, now that those are out, we have the top bolts that are not very tight at all, and they're 10mm nuts.
They're much smaller. Let's keep that in mind. Perfect.
Now again, they have washers. Get them out of there. You don't want to lose them. Perfect. Now, I'm going to make sure there's no ground on the back of the head, which there is. So we're going to get that off of there first. I don't know what size it is. I'll try with the crescent, but probably going to have to go get a wrench. There we go. It's nice to not have to chase a tool. This is for the engine harness. These grounds on the back of the head are for the Holley engine management system, Holley HP. Let's get this off of here. And then, as I mentioned, you gotta be careful because there's two washers on the end that didn't come off, so I'm gonna slide them off real slow. Just cooling underneath the heads. So I should have been more prepared for that. That was dumb. Again, small block Chevy guys. The bolts don't have coolant, but the heads have coolant underneath them. Clean off these cylinders a little bit, inspect them, see how they look, and go from there. But I'm pretty pleased with how this motor looks so far, just on this side. Wow, this motor burns clean. So that's fantastic news. All right. Now we're going to slide the LS9 head gaskets that I mentioned off of the studs. Although these are multi-layers, don't reuse them. Come on, just go buy a set. Okay, sometimes it's a pain. There's the multi-layer. They're directional, they say front. I'm going to toss these in the trash can so they don't ever be used. Now, the last little bit I want to do, I'm going to wipe my hands off real quick to keep the coolant off of it. And I will bring the camera so you can see All right, so here we have the old lifters that are sitting in their tray. As you see, they're not a terrible design. GM designed them from the factory this way. They worked, they did their job. but they're not what I would use, especially not for a performance engine that you're going to be running high RPM, you know, turbocharging, racing around a track. So as you see, there's a huge difference in the design. These are link style setup. They're a different length completely. So the push rods are going to be different. And if I set this down, I could take one of these lifters out. Here is the body of the lifters. Look how much difference in length. So here's on the other side, huge difference in length, which also has a difference in plunger, difference in bearings. They're link style, way nicer design. So we're gonna toss these. I don't wanna reuse them. I don't like the lifter tick that they're creating. So my guess is the plunger's weak on the inside, even though these have barely any miles on them. It's unbelievable how quick these lifters fail on them. It's just I don't know, manufacturer defect, I don't know what it is. But these are gonna go in. Let me go ahead and set these down and we'll wrap up the project. All right, so I already got the other head off. I got the lifters out. I got everything completely done and removed. The engine is torn down to just a short block. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean all the heads, all the parts, all the bolts, all the nuts, everything, just clean everything up. I'm gonna take the parts and pieces to the powder coater, try to get them satin black as soon as possible. That way I can get all the parts here, all the parts ready to go. We can start assembling this. Now push rods, we'll have to measure and get those ordered, but I can get those done in one night, not a big deal. So that is it for this video. We got it torn down and ready. The next video, we'll get it completely assembled, started up, and I'll show you the difference in sound from tickety tack 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 to let's hit the track. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Please like my videos. Please do everything you can to help bolster the channel the best you can. I actually want to announce I'm going to do a giveaway. I actually have a vehicle that I'm going to do a full build on the channel. I'll let you guys select the motor, the tranny, and everything in it. I will show the vehicle here very soon, but there are some things that I need to get to. So we're going to try to get to a certain number of subscribers, certain number of view hours, yada, yada, yada. But we're going to try to bolster this channel so I can start doing giveaways, give you guys what you want, try to get you the content you want, cars down the road, you name it. But please subscribe. I appreciate you watching.